Now, the prospects for returning to a nuclear deal with Iran, they're bleak. That's the word from America's special envoy for Iran, Robert Malley. After holding indirect talks with Iran in Vienna for over a year now, Malley appeared before a congressional panel. The U.S. envoy for Iran was making the case for the revival of the nuclear deal with Iran, but he acknowledged the uncertainty over an agreement. As per the testimony, he told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that the United States does not have a deal with Iran and prospects for reaching one are at best tenuous. He further stressed that if Iran maintains demands that go beyond the scope of JCPOA, the United States will continue to reject them and there will be no deal. JCPOA is the official name of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Malley also told the lawmakers that if Iran keeps clinging on to these demands, Tehran would face a new pressure campaign. Malley was likely referring to Tehran's demands to remove terrorism blacklisting of elite Revolutionary Guards, a demand that has been rejected by Joe Biden. However, the United States envoy also mentioned that the Biden administration is nonetheless supporting the 2015 nuclear accord and that it was ready to lift sanctions if it secures an agreement with Tehran. The JCPOA was brokered under then-President Barack Obama, but Obama's successor, Donald Trump, withdrew in 2018, reimposed sweeping unilateral sanctions. The International Atomic Energy Agency has also highlighted difficulties in dealing with Iran. Agency's Director General Rafael Grossi told a panel discussion at the World Economic Forum that they are at a difficult juncture with Iran. The IAEA is working on a number of issues with the country. The agency is preparing for the next round of negotiations about the country's nuclear program.
It's complex. I suppose I should abstain from having a final conclusion at this point, since we haven't finished the process yet. But let me say that we are at a very difficult juncture at the moment, and I hope that the time that mediates between now and the issuance of my report will put to good use to come at least with the start of a credible answer to these things.
Now, for more on this, joining us live is our correspondent Jody Cohen from Ra'anana, Israel. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, with Robert Malley's assessment of only tennis chances remaining of signing the Iran nuclear deal, is there any hope left of a deal being signed?
So that is the key question. So the US envoy on Iran, Robert Malley, gave testimony to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, saying that he believes there's only a tenuous chance of an Iran nuclear deal being signed now. And he's put that down to excessive Iranian demands. And he also appeared to confirm President Biden's decision not to delist Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, from the US terror list. Now, this comes as a high-profile report has been released in the US, which reveals that Iran is said to have used confidential papers from the IAEA, that's the UN's nuclear watchdog, to cover up its nuclear activity. And this involves things like allegedly falsifying information, creating cover stories, and evading inspections. Now, Israel's Prime Minister Bennett has said that this is surely evidence that Iran's nuclear activities are not peaceful, and said that this should be a wake-up call to the world, and called on the IAEA to react. And this, of course, follows last week's assessment by Israel's Defense Minister Gantz that said that Iran is just weeks from having enough fissile material for a nuclear bomb.
Right, Jody. Now, also, what is the international community's plan B if a deal cannot be reached?
So Robert Malley was asked this by the Foreign Relations Committee, and he seems to evade answering the question. He also avoided giving a timeline for the US leaving the negotiations. The US is actually in Israel now. They're observing the Chariots of Fire training drill, which is simulating an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. But next week, they'll actually be doing more than just observing. They're actually participating for the first time as aviation refuelers. Now, we know that President Biden is known to be against the military option, but Malley has said that all options are on the table. And he warns of greater economic pressure if the deal isn't signed. So US Treasury Department has just announced new sanctions against an oil smuggling and money laundering network belonging to the IRGC's Quds Force and backed by Russia. But the real question is, is Plan B, the economic pressure, is Plan C the military option, or is there really just a Plan A, and is this all a negotiation aimed at getting Iran back to the negotiating table and to sign the deal?
Absolutely. Well, Jody, thank you so much for bringing us all the updates on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.